So we are live. We are live and recording, and I am Stephen Oliver again. Welcome back to our. And I am talking to myself in the corner here. It is not my day for technical cooperation from different uh, pieces of software.
Is that another
Um,
device going?
well, when you're streaming live on Facebook, if you have the volume on Facebook, it has like a couple second delay. So you're hearing like an echo, like when you and I have spoken in big auditoriums,
Yeah.
you have that echo
Feedback.
thing, which drives me crazy. But anyway, hey, I'm Stephen Oliver back for the Financial Advisor podcast here, or you may be seeing us on YouTube or Facebook. And I'm joined by Jeff Smith, and we've introduced Jeff a number of times. But Jeff, you're one of the iconoclast, world famous kickboxers and world champions in that arena. But you're also world champion business coach and consultant, teaching marketing, sales processes, client retention, and staff. We spend an awful lot more time with our high level clients on staff development than anything else, right? How to replicate themselves through their staff. But what we wanted to talk about today is uh, accelerated referral systems, so mechanisms that advisors can generate client referrals. And as you and I know, pretty much everybody we talk to who's not doing particularly well, what they tell us immediately is we say, what are your marketing systems? What are your marketing plan? What have you been doing to generate traffic? What do they all say?
Word of mouth.
I get everything from word of mouth. And and what that means is always they get about one fifth as many new clients as they need. But the ones that happen to stumble through the door, or at least metaphorically, one of their clients was nice enough to tell them about it. Or perhaps when they're having client meetings or sitting down and begging them for business. I think I've told you the old, the insurance industry line is, I get compensated in two ways. The first way I get compensated, obviously, commission on what you're purchasing today, but also I get compensated because you're referring me your friends, which to me is the most desperate looking. And it frames it the wrong way, right? I mean, we always frame it as, in the conversation of be thinking about your friends and give them a isolate faces. Who do you know at? I know you're a golfer. Who do you know at the golf club? Who do you know at Kiwanis, JC's? Who do you know at work? Who would also vastly benefit from the same kind of conversation that we've had? And if you know somebody who would, since they're your friend, I'd be delighted to talk to them, no charge, and see if I can help them in any way.
Yeah, and
Right? That's a much better way
sometimes
to frame it.
sometimes it's just a matter of them understanding. A lot of times they say, "Well, I don't really know anybody," and then you say, "Well, let's talk about your circle of friends. Are you a golfer? What do do you belong to any clubs? Uh, and then they start finding out, how about your neighborhood? How about your family? And then all of a sudden, they've got this much bigger circle now that you've kind of explained to them where these people you're talking about come from.
Yeah. And the principle, by the way, the generalized marketing principle is nobody goes to the guru at the bottom of the mountain. So if you're begging for them to send you business, that's not a good way to position yourself as an expert, right? Is and anytime, as we all know, it doesn't matter whether it's in dating or sales or any other environment, desperation is an automatic turnoff. So the what you always want to do is be positioned as you have more business than you need. However, you'd be happy to work with their friends because they're a great client. You'd be happy to talk to them and see if there's any way to help them out. And you always want to, I always steal Zig Ziglar's old line, WIIFM, what's in it for them. You want to position it as what's in it for them, what's in it for their friends, not what's in it for you. And by the way, what's in it for them isn't that you're going to buy them a steak dinner. What's in it for them is they're going to have a friend that's grateful that you helped solve a problem with somebody who's an expert that you trust and know, and so forth. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, and that's why they all, what they need to do is align a bunch of even if it's just a get together, where you're doing some, you got to help them help their friends. You can't
Yep.
just say, talk to your friends about what you're doing, because their friends might not have the same thing. But if you talk about retirement, or if you talk about, I want to start a fund for my kids' school, and I want tax benefits. And so if you have a little seminar, now everybody, all of your clients that have friends might be interested in that. Well, that you can't solve every one of those problems this month. The idea is, well, I'm having a get together with friends. We're going to talk about this. We're going to do a little talk. And, we talked about your books that a lot of your clients have been doing, which then they give them one of their books, and now it makes them the expert in the field. So now they think, wow, this guy's doesn't just know his stuff. He's even knows it well enough. He even wrote a book on it. And these books are so easy to put together.
Pardon me. Now I caught your cough. But as you know from being here in my office, library, and dining room, I have probably, I don't know, 100 at least of these, individual advisor books. And, it's really, the content doesn't matter so much. It becomes a business card. But let's talk about exactly what you said. And from the standpoint of this is, we're talking about asking clients for friends, but really here's the deal is, I think we all expect that a client who really loves us is going to go talk to their friends about us and pitch them on our service, right? And you and I know, Jeff, from working with organizations that have a lot of employees, and I don't know how many you and I have had directly working for us over the years, but makes me a little stressed out and nauseous thinking about it. I know at one time you had 50 or 60 back in the day working underneath you. I tapped out at about 50, but I think about this: your staff, my staff, without extensive training, they were never particularly good at, what most people call an elevator pitch. Chet Holmes called it your stadium pitch, but they weren't good if they were hearing somebody talk at Starbucks and saying, "Hey, I got something that would be helpful for you," or if somebody asked them a question, they weren't good at pitching your services. And these are people who are making their career working for you, right? In fact, most advisors I talk to are horrible at it. And so now to expect your clients to be having lunch with their friend, and the friend brings up something about their son, or brings up something about succession planning, or brings something about retirement planning and so forth, and to have them good at pitching you is a fool's errand, right? In fact, the more they try to, probably more times out of not, they end up talking the person out of taking action, right? They start talking about how much it was,
They're
how
not
much.
salesmen, and we
Yeah.
don't want them to, because we know they'll screw it up. So all
Exactly.
we need to do is give them a platform to invite somebody,
Yeah.
and whether it's a Zoom meeting, if you want to go kind of what we call bare bones expenses, or if you want to do like a wine and cheese get together or something where it's not a full blown dinner, but a little wine and cheese thing at the winery or at the club. Sometimes it might be a golf thing. If you've got that group of friends that are in golfing, and you're going to do a golf outing, and they do a little thing in the golf center there at the club, the country club or whatever, and you can have them come in there, and they do a little catering thing and just a wine and cheese, but all kinds of those. But that's what you have to do, is you have to engage these people to have something to talk about.
Well, and let's kind of summarize this a little bit. Is generally we have found is either how do I want to say it, events where the client feels comfortable inviting their friend to, or pass-along tools, even better, topic specific, where they feel comfortable gifting to their friends. And so let's kind of define those terms. Within events, there's multiple kinds of events you can come up with, but let's simplify it and say there's educational events. So there's an event that you can have that's open to all your clients on college planning, or dealing properly with your Social Security, or we know all the topics, but you
Yeah,
get the idea. An
retirement,
educational, yeah,
and even wills and things that a lot of people in that investment age have parents that are probably pretty close to passing on, and
yeah.
having that all planned out. All of that is part of the deal.
Yeah, well, and now we go into the joint venture type of stuff as well. You get the estate planning attorney, and you co-host it. He invites his clients, you invite your clients. But I guess I didn't get finished summarizing. So, pass along tool. Well, the other type of event would be client appreciation events, right? So that's when you're talking about, maybe it's at the golf club. Well, an educational event could be there too, but it's at the winery, or it's at the art gallery, or it's a dinner or a banquet, or something like that. I know one advisor who, he has a big birthday party for himself every year, and it's ended up being hundreds of people show up to his birthday party, and all of them, because it's such a cool event, not all but many of them invite their friends, and then they have a mechanism set up to convert the friends, to clients from there. But it could be client appreciation events, or something like I mentioned with the birthday party, or it could be educational events, and really probably should have all of those things going. The other side of it was pass along tools. You mentioned a couple of those things already. A pass along tool would be a book. I know an advisor I've worked with that does a quarterly new book. And some people say, oh my God, that's a lot of work. Well, the average book on Amazon is 30 or 40 pages. It's really an elongated article. And so you could
And
do a
more
book.
likely to be read.
Well, yeah, yeah. And by the way, you don't care that they get read is the main thing. Well, all you care about is
Makes you the expert.
that's right. That's right. But if you did a little book, and you mail out 5 of them to every one of your clients with a note, and then every review meeting you had, or every new client onboarding, you gave them a package with your book and a cover letter and all that stuff, and gave them 4 or 5. And see, again, what happens on the client side, they don't know how to sell your practice, and frankly, no matter how much they like you, they're not trying to sell your practice. They're trying to help their friend. And so as long as you phrase it, everything in the way that they're going to help their friend, giving them a gift that they can give their friend. And that could be the book, it could be a report, a white paper, it could be a DVD, a CD, it could be a podcast link. There's all kinds of things you can do that's informational they can do. And of course, that crosses over on the other side with educational events where they can invite them to this month's webinar, invite them to this month's Zoom meeting, invite them to the client appreciation event, invite them to the meeting at your office. I mean, there's all different ways to go about it, but them inviting a friend to an event, or them having a pass along tool that they can give their friends,
Yeah,
those are
even
in
if they
general
don't,
terms.
even if they don't do a book, they can do like a brochure or something that talks about this field that you're gonna be talking more in depth in the event, and use the brochure as a teaser for it.
Yeah.
And now you've got something in their hand that they can look at, and now you've got some events. And just also think about what's going on during different times of the year. 4th of July, you have a little 4th of July party, and you invite people. You've got Super Bowl party. You've got a New Year's party.
Yeah.
All these different things during the
Well,
year. Halloween.
we have a big circle of influence of MMA and martial arts buddies. So one of them rented out the top floor of what's it called, Woody's Wild Wings, for a UFC viewing event, and sent out invitations, and they brought their friends to that. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do.
A complete list. If they just got to start writing down these things, and then once they get their list, because I always tell our clients, look, first put a list together, get your list of events that you want to do, and then start deciding what you want to do at each of those events.
Yeah.
And then you've got to get it committed to a date on your calendar, and you have to say to yourself, what am I doing this week to market my business? And if
Yeah.
I'm not doing something on a weekly or daily basis, that's going to help me get new clients. Because, as you know, it's not that they're not good at their selling. It's just that they are not good at acquiring.
Usually they're good at their sell.
clients to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have them there to sell. At least if you keep good stats, you'll know whether it was, well, I got them there, but I suck at selling, so I didn't get any.
Well,
Then we have another issue.
Well, when we're working with a new advisor, we work on three areas. And some of the guys who are captive, I work with a lot of Northwestern Mutual, for instance, is they don't have much flexibility on how they're charging people and what their pricing is and so forth, other than if they're charging them a planning fee up front or something. But the RIAs have a lot of flexibility on how they're structuring all that. Pretty much everyone is undervaluing what they're doing. And you mentioned estate planning. I talked to a gentleman. He's a new client, so I haven't had a chance to fix him yet. But he's charging him $1,200 to put together estate planning and a living will or something like that, and he's licensed enough to be able to do that for him. That's what a living trust. A living trust is the word I was looking for. And as soon as he said $1,200, you know how I reacted. This is if you got somebody with a $2 million or $5 million, $10 million estate, and you're going to do it for $1,200, you must not be very good, right? that's the reaction. But the three things we work on is we work on that when there's any flexibility there, but we work on the sales process. And you mentioned the key is keeping stats. I was talking to an advisor who has been around forever, and he now has a software company as well. And he said, get this, see if this syncs with us. Everything changed when he put the whiteboard on the wall and started keeping track of his closing ratios.
Yeah, you think?
Right?
Yeah.
And we always have the stats board up, but how many leads did you get? How many appointments did you make? How many discovery meetings did you have? How many onboarding new clients that you have? What happens is, since almost all advisors suck at marketing, I think you'd agree with that, is they think their closing is really good because people almost have to fight their way in the door to get to them, right?
Yeah.
So if I only have one or two new clients a month, and those one or two clients a month were Harry, who's been with me for 15 years, drug him down, or it's Susie's kids who wants to carry on the
And
the family.
referrals are the highest percentage. I mean, other than them seeking you out, they're going through Google, or they're going through Facebook, they're going through whatever marketing sequence. The next best thing is when they're referred by somebody.
Yeah. Well, I think we always know that the nice thing about a referred prospect is that they've already heard from somebody they trust that you're an expert, or they like you, or that they trust you, or they wouldn't be getting that. So that gives you a nice leg up. The bad thing is they haven't been educated very well, and sometimes we take that for granted, right? But the other element is, if you had a trickle and you go to a flood, I mean, you remember what happened with Peter about a year ago, right, Jeff? Is we gave him more appointments in a month than he had in the previous year.
Yeah.
And
Drinking from the fire hose.
everything went to shit, right? And he had staff problems he didn't know there were staff problems, and he had follow up that didn't happen, and he had I could go on and on and on. But that's the second thing we do, because there's no reason to open the floodgate of new appointments, of new prospective clients, if you're going to go from closing 80% of the people you touch to 20% of the people you touch, right? So we've always got to fix that process, and then it's open the floodgate. And already just on referrals, we've touched upon what you and I beat on constantly, is that Parthenon, right? Having a ton of different things going on every month. But even for referrals, if we have 5 or 6 or 10 different referral systems going on all at the same time, then we're going to get a good, nice, steady. And especially if an advisor already has, say, 100 clients, to me, that's always that critical mass. If I have 20 people and I'm just new to the thing, or if I have 40 people, it's hard to get much mass going on referrals. But if I got 100 and I'm creating Passalong Tools, I'm creating educational events, I'm doing customer service or customer appreciation events, I'm isolating faces and so forth. And on the isolating faces, I'll use Peter again. One of the things that we started with on a very manual basis is his assistant was going into his LinkedIn, or going not into his, but into LinkedIn, and he had his calendar for the week. So he was going ahead of every meeting, looking at every client, and figuring out where they worked and what they did, and what groups they're involved with, what associations. And by the way, they should be doing that on Facebook too, because that's going to give you social affiliations more. But that was another thing. So when he met with them, he already had a checklist of this person's HR director at XYZ company, and this person is into this, and this person's into this, and his immediate first level connections are these other people who are at the same level in his company, or they're the CEO or one thing or another. Gave him a lot of great talking points before he even sat down with them.
Yeah, and you don't have to do a live event every week. Even if you did one live event, each month,
Yeah.
and then, but on a weekly basis, you can do 2 or 3 Zoom meetings. Those don't take anything, and you can cover all the different topics. So now you can even give these friends a checklist of what they're interested in. Just to find out what you're getting. What's the most interest in, and then I know to have more of those to get these people invited. So sometimes you're trying to sell the wrong product. You need to sell what they need, what they want.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and you're selling a solution to a problem, right? That's the worst thing is when advisors lead with a product rather than lead with a solution, right? But
what they need, rather
exactly,
than finding out
exactly.
what their concerns are.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And everybody's different. They're not the same. Even even though they're friends, they might not have the same problem. They have a different thing. The one has kids that are getting ready. They're in middle school and they're starting to plan for their college fund and things like that. So it's important to ask to find out. And that's one of the problems that they fail to do.
Well, and what you said, by the way, brings up two separate issues about client service. Is there was a very high level research study done recently, and they came up with, I'm going to butcher the numbers a little bit, but more or less 60% of all clients of financial advisors are not particularly happy with their financial advisor. About half of those, or about a third of clients of financial advisors, are thinking about moving, going to another advisor. Now, the underlying reality is the churn from year to year to year of clients is very low for advisors. So most people are too lazy to, pull all their investments and put it somewhere else and shift in midstream. But if 60% of them are unhappy, they're not running around trying to pitch you to their friends. And they're not going out of their way to come up with who they should have you go talk to. And they're not going out of their way to invite their friends to come to the client appreciation event. Probably they're not enthusiastic about it. They're not going out of their way to bring their friend to a educational event, right? And so, but what you mentioned there about these Zoom events or webinars or live events is it's a really good way to touch your clients way more than once a year for a review, right? Is what you need to be doing is touching them constantly by email, by mail, one thing or another. But if you are on an interactive Zoom meeting with them a couple times a month, they feel like they're friends. And even if there's 50 other people on it, they still, feel your personality. They have affinity for you. They like you, right? Where if they're not interacting with you, then little things add up, and they, again, the polls show 60% are not all that enthusiastic about their guy or gal.
And that's the first place they should be in marketing, is to their existing clients, because they, the good thing about these clients is that they have more than one thing that they need help with.
Yeah.
And there's so many different fields in the investment field that that if you can find out all the different things they need, and sometimes they don't even need it themselves, till you give them a little sales pitch on it.
Yeah.
And so I would have a questionnaire that I would send to them to fill out so I could find out more. Then I'd know which events to have. And then, because I would first hit the ones that most of the clients want, and then invite their friends. And then next month, the other clients that want this. And so you kind of keep it ongoing with between them and their other things that they need, more information on and educating on. And that's why you said one of the things you should be doing is doing educational things,
Yeah.
not just social. But I tell you, that social, don't underplay it, because if you socialize with them like a wine and cheese, whether it's a golf outing or something, see, now you get on a friendly basis, and so now they're more likely to invite their friends into that circle.
Is that kind of like our last client event where you beat them all in pool?
I did. I let some of them win.
Oh, okay. Contrary.
Who I saw were getting upset when they lost, I'd say, let's play another game, and then I'd lose.
Okay. Yeah, we have a couple times a year an event here at my house, which is on the top of the mountain in Evergreen, and that tends to be one of the things is gathering around the pool table. But that and ogling the 150 elk in the backyard at any one time.
They are amazed with how many. There's a whole herd going through your backyard. So
Yeah, and they make if you haven't ever heard, they make the weirdest noise. You would never.
Yeah. And they all got to go out there and take pictures.
Yeah. But one other thing on this is, and I stole this from somebody. It was on a financial advisor podcast. As you know, I went through like 100 of them in 2 months. A few months ago, I get on a tangent and I take a break. But he made a really relevant comment. If I remembered who it was, I would give attribution. I always try to do that. But what he said was, your clients only know what you do based upon what problem you solved for them. They don't know the range of other problems that you can solve, right?
Yeah.
So if and I thought it was really profound to think about that, because most advisors don't educate their clients on their range of capabilities. And I've worked with advisors myself on both sides of the table where, they had assets, resources, capabilities I didn't know about. They didn't tell me about it. May have been on their website, but you and I aren't going to go study every detail.
That's why it's good to have a questionnaire that pulls that out of them.
Yeah.
Because once they answer the question, they might not have realized that they're a good candidate for that phase of your business.
Yeah, and on the other hand, if the client is 65 and you're helping make sure they don't run out of money before they die, and then they have a younger friend or a child who has college planning issues, doesn't dawn on them that you do that, right? Yeah. I have years ago when you remember the way I got back into this niche, what's it been now, 20 years ago, is we had 50 employees in Colorado. We had, what was it? It's giving me a headache already. About 20 in Florida, in Tampa, and then, you and a few others up in Virginia. So we were spread across 3 states. And we were looking for executive compensation plans, deferred compensation, and tax, appropriate ways to save money and take money out of the company. And that's when I first hooked up with this gentleman. But frankly, that was all I knew about what he did at the time, right? And there was a number of times either that I was talking to other people who had needs that he would have been perfectly suited to deal with. Never dawned on me to bring his name up. And there were other needs that we came up with that really was more in his wheelhouse than what we were doing. Also never dawned on me, because he never had the conversation of, here's what we're working on right now with you, but there's also this disability planning, there's this retirement planning, there's this Social Security dealing with that, there's college planning. He never bothered to go through all of the different areas. And on the educational side, that's again where, how many times do we take an expert in another field, right? And we now team up with them with the sole or the primary focus of they're providing service to our clients. And if they happen to get some of them as clients, great. We're all tickled to death. And we're providing service to their clients, and hopefully many of them convert to clients of ours.
And that's why if somebody's marketing, I mean, obviously, your goal is to get as many new clients as you can. But what they miss out on is that how much more productive they can be if they learn how to get each client to spend more. It's a lot easier to make a better profit when you don't have to spend the money to acquire a new client. But that's why they really need to be, you talked about the Parthenon of Marketing, which a lot of people might not understand what that means.
Yeah.
I'll let you explain a little more.
Picture the facade of Wall Street behind me here, but, or the Parthenon in Nashville or in Greece. It's, if you want 20 new clients a month, have 20 things going on every month.
Yeah,
right?
not one thing that gets 20 people. Because if that one thing goes sour, now, because it's the catch-22, if something's going to go wrong, that activity you normally did, now all of a sudden something happens weather-wise or something. But
the most recent example of that was COVID, right? Is there an awful lot of advisors who were in bad shape because they were doing the steak dinner at Chris Ruth once a month, and that was their only marketing funnel. And then all of a sudden that gets shut down. And of course it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve that ended up being 2 years to flatten the curve in many places, right? So
and the people who waited and said, well, I'll wait, I'll ride this out, are the ones that really, half of them didn't come back even into business. But what I was going to tell you about your Parthenon is you really got to divide your marketing into internal marketing, into external marketing, and then to internet marketing.
Yeah.
So you've got things from each of those coming in each month, so now you're working the clients you have, so you're getting their referrals, you're getting actually more business from them on other things that they need help with that they didn't even know that you handle that.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you don't ask them and they don't know that you're good at that, and that's why having a questionnaire to answer, fill out for you, to see what areas they need help, and then you can give them the information on those things that they need help with, and it makes it a lot simpler.
Yeah. And obviously this is a topic we could go on with for a weekend, right? But and fill in all the blanks. But why don't we summarize really quickly and maybe take 4 major points here. One is anytime you're asking people about their circle of influence, about who they know, one thing or another, if you ask too broad a question, the human mind draws a blank. You've really got a narrow target. I think I stole it from Tom Hopkins years ago, but he calls it isolate faces. So help them isolate in on groups, organizations, and places. And then what we have found is where most referrals come from is either events, client appreciation events, some other event where they can invite their friend, or educational events for clients where they can invite their friends, or they come from Passalong Tools and a book, a white paper, a report, and having something where and what happens is, think about this, is, let's say, 60-year-old CEO goes out to lunch with his friend, and the friend says, I'm really struggling with blank, and it's some topic within your wheelhouse. It's easy for him to say, I have on my desk, I have a book on that subject written by Joe, who I work with, who's a real expert in that subject. Why don't I stop by tomorrow and I'll bring that to you, or at the office tomorrow I'll bring that to you.
It's so helpful because people didn't even know until they read that book how important that was to know that.
Yeah. And of course, the thing about a book is a minor tangent. Advisors, when they do the book, they oftentimes put it on Amazon, put it on Barnes & Noble, get it self-published, or they think they're going to get a real publisher to publish it, and are shocked that none of them sell, right? Well, there's 1 million books a year that's being published. The point of the book is it makes a great lead magnet. It's the term to get somebody to opt in. You're going to mail it to them for free. It makes a great pass along gift. It's way better than a business card or something because it gives you credibility as the expert.
They're more
But you're not,
likely to opt in if they're going to get a free something on that topic than they are just call me so I can talk to you.
yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Well, almost all of the advertising we do on Facebook and LinkedIn is all tied to, in fact, we're getting ready to publish my next book, Extraordinary Marketing for Financial Advisors, Volume 1, because of course there's so much more to go. But that'll be a lead magnet. It'll be an ad on Facebook. It'll be a ad on LinkedIn, all over the place. Of raise your hand if you'd like this free book, and of course, if they raise their hand, they have needs in that topic.
And
So
today's
that's
time, you don't even have to print the book. You can actually send you know, the, you know, the web version,
yeah.
and don't even have to have the books printed.
Although I would argue always print them because
For the printing is they have something in their hand they're going to see all the time.
yeah. Well, that's right because
And like you always do, is you give them immediately the link to the book so they can, while the other one is coming in the mail, and some of them have a head start on it already, and others who forgot about it, now the book comes and go, oh yeah, that's right. He was sending me a link on that. I wonder if that ever came, because that's more convenient for some people. But if you give them both of the tools, then you got them covered. You know, they can do it on their phone when they're setting somewhere to read it on their phone when they're not carrying the book with them, or at home leisurely with the actual physical copy.
yeah, and it's a topic for another day. But I would say in the digital era, people have become lazy, right? Lazy
Yeah.
and cheap. A mutual friend of ours keeps asking me if can I email that list. It's like, well, yeah, but 90% of them aren't going to open the email, and 90% of them aren't going to do anything about it. So there might be a better way. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. But we could go on and on about referrals, but just referral systems include having live events, either webinars, Zoom meetings, at your conference room in your office, at a restaurant, at a hotel, where it's either a client appreciation type of thing or it's a educational event, and you should do both, where they feel comfortable inviting their friends and having pass along tools that they can share with their friends, and being really good at knowing who your clients are. I'll give one more example. Over the years, I've used this example many times, Jeff, but I had the CFO for the Denver Broncos organization. I had the marketing director for the Denver Nuggets organization, and I had the human resources director for the largest employer at the time in the state. Back then, it was U.S. West, which is now CenturyLink. And another one I had was the HR director for Coors, which was also, I think, number 2 or 3 biggest employer in the state. And I also had the somebody who was on the board of director and the regional director for McDonald's. And you start putting those people together. And I also had the president of a $780 million electronics chain. And oftentimes we have clients that we don't really even think about what their opportunities and what they could do if they love us, right? And unless you really kind of ask and explore and delve deeply. I was talking to our newest client, actually, Jeff, yesterday, and he's very active in politics, and he's very active in his church, and he's very active in the Christian community in his area, and hasn't used any one of those things in order to generate new clients, right? He just had an event where the governor was at his house and a senator was at his house and a number of other people of the same level of thinking, and hasn't done anything with that. You know how nervous, how much anxiety that gave me, right? We're going to fix it. But, it's you know how voracious you and I are at networking and then figuring out how to create win-win opportunities for that. But that's where an awful lot of the referral leverage comes from. I remember, again, some of these big HR directors, I had payroll stuffers, I had things in their newsletter, I had booths and events at all of their live events, and more importantly, I had their retirement planning people recommending us to go talk to about their needs. So imagine the kind of leverage that gives.
And most people don't think about that. See, you've heard the expression, always be marketing.
Yeah.
And the
No, I used that one in the book when you made that up about your comment was way before you were an MBA, you were an ABM.
yeah. And of course, always be marketing.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if you really don't, a lot of people think that, regardless of their field, that's your expertise. But if you don't know how to market, then you're not going to thrive in your business. Even if you're good, you've got to let people know so they can come and see you and hear you and what you have to say. And nothing works better than, hitting all these different phases of marketing. We were talking about internal, external, internet, direct mail, all this stuff is so important. But the reason the referrals are top on our list is because those are always such easier sells. Number one, it doesn't cost any or very little to acquire them. You don't have to spend all that money. And then, also make sure that you're marketing to your own people on expanding what they're doing, what you're utilizing in their repertoire of what they need help with.
And frankly, so often you don't have to be particularly good at sales to close them.
Yeah.
Well,
you already closed them once, so if you introduce them to something else they need help with, or another family member, it makes it a much easier sell. It really helps those percentages.
Well, thank you, sir. We're both finishing up a Friday afternoon here, dressed casually. So I'll let you get back to your movie tour or motorcycling, and I'm going to go do the same.
Yep, I did a little motorcycle ride today already.
Ah, did you?